approval from Council. I have no apologies. So accordingly, I will move to introduce the members of the panel. Initially, my name is Angus Talbot. I'm the chairman of the panel. I have a background in the law through being a solicitor, a barrister, and as a judge on the Land and Environment Court. I will ask the other members of the panel to introduce themselves and shortly give you some background knowledge that is relevant to their membership of this panel. First of all, I ask Michael Levy to do so.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Michael Levy, I'm a town planner and expert panel member on this panel. I've had over 30 years experience in the planning industry, local government, state government and private consultancy. And I also sit on a number of other local planning panels. Thank you.
Thank you. Sandra Robinson.
Sandra Robinson, I'm an expert panel member. Like Michael, I've got about 30 years of experience, mostly in the private sector, and I sit on Ku-ring-gai's panel and a number of other Sydney panels.
Thank you. Suzanne Jolly, community member.
Yes, I'm Suzanne Jolly. I'm the community representative within the panel. I've been a resident of Ku-ring-gai for over 10 years now, so and reside up in Wahroonga. So that's me. Yes.
Thank you. I ask the panel members to indicate whether they have any declarations of interest in relation to any of the business to be conducted today. Are there any declarations of interest?
No.
No.
Nothing coming forward. Thank you. I similarly ask the staff who are involved in this meeting whether any of them have a declaration of interest to make.
No, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Now, what will happen is I will call the speakers. Speakers will have 3 minutes. There will be an indication at the conclusion of that time, and it's expected that the person speaking will cease very shortly by winding up their submission at that time. The speakers will be heard, first of all, Mr. Whittingham as an objector, and then some representatives of the applicant who are present, or at least one is here, and they will be called in that order. So, in accordance with that position, I ask Mr. Richard Whittington. Mr. Whittington, are you there and available to speak?
I am, and just confirming, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you very well, thank you. And Mr. Whittington, your outline of your detailed submission has in writing that you made available before the meeting has been made available to each of the panel members, and they have all assured me they have read it.
Thank you very much.
Bear that in mind in limiting yourself to 3 minutes. We have your points in writing, and I now invite you to sum up. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and members of the panel, and to Kerry Frere, who sent a copy of my presentation to you in advance of today's meeting, and I'm glad that you've had a chance to read it. My submission can be summarised thus. This modification would overturn one of the most important conditions that the KLPP imposed on the DA at its meeting on the 17th of August 2020. And that was highlighted again at its meeting on the 13th of December 2021, which you, Chair, chaired. In fact, I think the panel members might be the same today as they were at that meeting. And that condition was the one which was central to child pedestrian safety and the safety of users of Bannockburn Oval. It's a condition which was fought for by scores of local residents, and notably the Pymble Public School P&C. That is, that there be no access to the construction site by anyone ever from the Bannockburn/Reilly Street eastern side, and no vehicle movements on Bobbinhead Road during school drop-off and pick-up times. That's the substance. The question is, what has changed that would justify those conditions now being amended. And in my submission, nothing has changed. As well as the substance, there's the matter of process. Ratepayers are entitled to satisfy themselves that their public servants operate to reasonable levels of competence and accountability. And I make no reflection at all on anyone involved, but this panel, I suggest, is entitled to ensure that reasonable process has been followed, that this modification isn't being seen as snuck through under cover of darkness. The question, to summarise the point of process, as I elaborated in my written submission, why is all this being done at an off-schedule, short notice meeting a week before Christmas and after school holidays have begun? And further, other than the immediate neighbours, who else was advised of this proposed alteration? Council staff don't seem prepared to answer that particular question, but the reality is if Party X isn't advised of the proposal, then Party X is unlikely to avail themselves of the opportunity to object to it. Or put another way, you can't say we had no objection from the users of Bannockburn Oval and the schools on Bob and Hen Road if those parties were never advised that they could lodge an objection. Even when I asked how many people had registered to present today, there was no disclosure of that. It appears I'm the only one objecting. The burden of my submission then, Chair, is that a panel decision on this matter should be deferred until the panel is satisfied that reasonable community expectations of consultation have been met and that those who might want to make a presentation to the panel are around and available to do so. I'm very happy to answer questions on any aspect of what I've submitted. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Whittingham. I'm not sure that I was chairman of the meeting as you assert, but nevertheless.
I remember it distinctly, Chair, because on that occasion you mispronounced my name as you're still doing, but it's a very common error.
Oh, there you go.
It's Whitington.
Whitington.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for assisting me. And I probably indicated at the time that I'm well used to having mispronunciation of my name. So I sympathise with you and apologise.
I confess in an early draft of my submission, I called you Angus Taylor.
Oh, did you?
I then picked it up.
Well, I've never aspired to be a politician, particularly a wealthy one. Now, setting aside all of that and moving through to the business on hand, I'll ask each of the panel members whether or not they have any questions for you, Mr. Whitington. And first of all, I'll ask Sandra Robinson.
No, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Suzanne Jolly, do you have any comment to make or question to put to Mr. Whitington?
No questions, no. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And Michael Levy, same question.
Look, not a question, but just an observation, if I could, is having been a panel member when this was originally considered, this for Mr. Whitington, that in fact the question about the limit on access to Bannockburn Road was something that was put forward at the time by the applicant as part of their construction management plan. The panel didn't impose any conditions, any specific conditions limiting access there. But what they did ask for was, well, you know, if that access is to be limited, well, perhaps a fence should be put up to make things easier. But really just to clarify that question on limiting access didn't come specifically from the panel.
If I may, Chair, my recollection is that
I don't want to enter into a debate about it. Mr. Levy's indicating to you that looked at it in the light of what actually happened, it may not have been something that was a change of heart on the part of the council.
My understanding is that conditions 9 and 51 were imposed at the meeting in August 2020. That is not the meeting that you chaired in 2021. And those conditions, I understand, were drafted by council staff at the request of the panel that met in August 2020. On the
And
day in
that was
question, as I
just interrupting to clarify it. Do you understand the August 21 meeting was a meeting whereby the consent was modified?
the August 2020 meeting was a meeting at which the new owner presented a development application that was different to the original one that which the Land and Environment Court had rejected in late 2018.
Right.
And then the meeting you chaired in December 21 was to hear some modifications that the new owner was proposing.
That I do recall. I thought you were asserting that I had been at the original determination.
No, that was
we are at one now, Mr. Whitingham. So continue with your response to Mr. Levy if you've got any more to say. Mr. Levy, I think, has given a reasonable explanation of how I understand it took place.
Nothing further.
Thank you very much indeed. Well, thank you for your assistance. You're aware that the panel will meet following this public meeting, and I can assure you that your written submission and the further oral submission that you've made today will be taken into account and considered by the panel in determining the application. Thank you for your assistance.
Thank you very much. Am I welcome to stay and hear the remaining?
At the public meeting, you may stay.
Thank you very much.
The next person that I invite to speak is, if that's the way they want to do it, it's Tina Christie. Are you there, Miss Christie? I see you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
So my name is Tina Christie. I'm a planning consultant on behalf of the applicant.
Can I just inquire, are you related to Graham Selig in some way professionally?
No. Well, he's the client, he's the applicant, yes.
Yeah, well, that's a fairly close relationship.
Sorry. I've just lost my lights.
Oh.
Hang on. Yes, so he's the applicant.
Is he present? Is he present?
He's just joined now.
Righto, thank you. I understand now. Thank you, Tina. Christie, would you now address the panel?
Sure. Thank you, Chair and the panel. Firstly, we'd like to thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'll address the objection that was raised in a minute by Mr. Whitington. I just wanted to make it clear that the applicant has worked extremely closely with council and the community during the construction of this development. The whole idea of this amendment is to amend only that one condition, number 9, and to allow the construction vehicles of small construction vehicles up to small rigid vehicles only to enter from Bannockburn Road, but not during the drop-off and pick-up time. So that they still won't be able to use the drop-off or pick-up times. That's the intention. It's just so that the small construction vehicles can actually park on the site, can go into the site. They can use the basement to offload, get materials into and out of the site, etc. It will also help, we believe, with some of the parking in Bannockburn Street. The idea is that it is to make the construction more efficient and actually safer for pedestrians and car movements within Bannockburn Road. I understand when reading the report that the council engineers have looked at the sight lines from the driveway and they've agreed that the sight lines are actually acceptable. It's the same as what will be for the development. And given that we are only talking about up to small rigid vehicles, or small construction vehicles, it's not believed that there will be any detrimental impact to pedestrians or car movements in the street. Our own traffic engineer supports that as well. We've read the report. We're happy with all of the conditions, but just for the clarity for the panel and for Mr. Whitington, this is actually to make it safer, more efficient and quicker for the construction of the site. That's the whole idea why this is intended to be changed, and it is not for the drop-off and pick-up times. Lastly, the vehicles will come from the south. They'll turn left into the site. When they leave the site, they'll come out of the site, turn right and travel south again. There is no intention for those vehicles to go north and use Reilly Street. So Graham is available and myself are now available online if the panel has any questions. Thank you.
You, reverse order. Suzanne Jolly, have you got any questions for Ms. Christie?
No, thank you.
Michael Levy?
Yeah, just a brief one, Mr. Chairman. One of the concerns that's been raised, Tina, in some of the submissions has been around the ongoing compliance with some of these restrictions. And I'm just wondering if you can highlight any of the safety or management mechanisms built into the plan in terms of having to rely on external compliance for, ensuring that people do stick to the restrictions there are.
Sure, I'll defer that to Graham if that's okay.
All right, well, we'll come to that then. We'll hold on to that. See you,
All right.
Sandra Robbins. Is there anything else you want to ask, Michael?
No, that was it, Mr. Chairman.
Sandra Robinson,
yes, just one
thank you.
quick question for Ms. Christie. How long is the construction period going to take? Just for Mr. Whitington to understand how long the impact might occur.
Sure, that might also be best answered by Graham.
Oh, okay.
Given that he's out on the site nearly every day.
Okay.
All right. Well, those two questions will be dealt with in that way. So thank you, Ms. Christie, and the panel will take into account what you've had to say, as I indicated before.
Thank you.
The decision will be made this afternoon, and the decision will appear on the Council's website within 24 hours, we hope. Mr. Graham Selig, are you there?
Hello?
We can't hear you, Mr. Selig.
Well, I can see him.
Adele?
Yeah, I can
we can
hear
hear you
you
now.
We can hear you.
Oh, sorry about that. I thought it was working.
Mr. Selig, you're in view and we can hear you.
Okay, so the first question was about who will police the new regulations. We've got a full-time supervisor on site, and he will be shutting the gates at store times and opening them when the store times finish. That will be part of his scope of works. And we obviously have all traffic controllers as well if needed as well. We've also, the timing of construction, our estimated construction timeframe goes to about November next year.
Just in terms,
Sorry, I was just going to ask Mr. Selig whether there are other matters you wish to discuss. But Sandra, please, Ms. Robinson, go ahead.
When you talked about the qualified traffic controllers, you said if required, in the condition that we looked at this morning, condition 9, I think there's actually an obligation that you have qualified traffic controllers on site. Do you have that?
Yes. We have four qualified controllers on site.
Thank you.
Did you wish to make a statement, Mr. Selig, or are you here simply to deal with any questions that might arise?
Mainly just to deal with questions, but as Tina alluded to, the main issue is safety of Bobbin Head Road. If we, towards the end of the job, when the site becomes mostly constructed, have an issue where tradesmen have got to park on Bobbin Head Road and bring things in off the road, and that just becomes a safety issue for the tradesmen as well as the people driving through the road as well, which is a massive concern.
All right, thank you.
Sorry, just one more question.
Yes.
About time, Mr. Selig, you said so give or take another year. Does this modification reduce the time in any way?
100% it will reduce the time frame because the tradesmen can be more efficient. In noting we'll still be using the Bobbin Head Road side.
Can you get closer to the microphone, please?
Sorry, is that better?
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah. So it will speed up the construction because the tradesmen can be more efficient. But as one other little quick point with the most of the work will still be going out of the Bobbin Head Road part of the site. So we'll be finishing all the structure and everything from the Baldwin Head Road site. This is purely for the tradesmen to drive in and out of the car park. That's basically all it's been used for.
Mr. Michael Levy, you got any questions for Mr. Sillig?
No further questions, Mr. Chairman.
And Suzanne?
No, thank you.
Good. Thank you, Mr. Sillig. And as I indicated, your observations will be taken into account. Your questions will be noted, and the panel will decide this matter this afternoon and publish the outcome on the website in the next 24 hours. Thank you for your assistance. We're now going to adjourn and close the public meeting. And when that's done, the panel will reconvene straight away in order to make its deliberations and decision. Thank you for your assistance, one and all.
Thank you.